Joining me now is retired Marine General Anthony Zinni. He's a former commander-in-chief of the U.S. Central Command and served as special envoy to Qatar under President Trump. He's also a close friend of General John Kelly, and he was one of the folks that was quoted in that damning Atlantic piece, something that I'm going to put up today. The president tweeted about this piece today, General Zinni. He writes this: for years, fake stories and investigations, then the phony Russia hoax, next Ukraine and the failed impeachment, now the crummy Atlantic magazine's made-up story, and lastly, the political hit job by rapidly fading Bob Woodward in his boring book, It Never Ends. General Zinni, I just want to start with this. In what you have read in the Atlantic and what you've seen of Bob Woodward's quotes on stuff that you're aware of, is an accurate picture being painted of the president?
Unfortunately, it is. I mean, we know he's used the term loser to refer to John McCain, one of our heroes. We've seen the language he's used to degrade General Mattis, General Kelly, General McMaster's. I mean, these are men who have served honorably and are well respected by their troops. I'll tell you, Chuck, what angered me more than anything else by the loser and sucker comment. My father was an immigrant to this country. Shortly after he got here, he was drafted into the United States Army and went to war in World War I. He came back as a corporal and got his citizenship. It was the greatest honor in his life, those two things. My brother fought in the Korean War. I have a cousin wounded at the Battle of the Bulge, a cousin that was a communicator on a B-25 that was shot up with a dead co-pilot in his lap when they landed. My son served 5 combat tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. I put 40 years in the Marine Corps and served multiple tours in Iraq and in Vietnam and in Somalia. And for my family to be called losers and suckers, for the troops that I served with, for the 20 Marine lieutenants in my class who did not come back, that is a total disgrace coming from the commander-in-chief. And it just boiled me to the point. I don't normally like to get involved in politics in any way, right, but this goes to the heart of being a commander-in-chief. And I just don't know how you can be a commander-in-chief, look Gold Star mothers in the eye and say that about those who have served, those that have lost their life, and to degrade the leadership that you're supposed to depend on, that have fought 20 years worth of war up until now.
You have been somebody that isn't afraid to speak up when you think there's something to be said and it's necessary. But you also addressed an issue that I know is very common with a lot of folks like yourself who have served career in the military, made it to general, which is you don't want to get involved in campaign politics, right? There's this line you try not to cross. But a lot of people are wondering why Generals Kelly and Mattis aren't speaking out more. Explain it to the public how hard this is for even retired generals to step into the political fray. I know you're training, it's beaten into your head never to step into the political fray, and yet there are a lot of people who think, boy, this is the time.
It is extremely difficult. You know, we learned from people like General Marshall and others in our military history that we should remove ourselves from politics in any way. We swore an oath to the Constitution. We serve the Constitution and what it stands for. We do not in any way challenge civilian leadership when the directions we're given are lawful. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to step out, to know the pain you'll receive, to know that you don't want to set the wrong example for those that are following you. But when it gets to the point where you can no longer, and it affects those young soldiers, sailors, and airmen Marines you've led, you're forced to do it. I would just say one other thing. Where are our veterans in Congress, especially the Republicans? You know, the crickets the silence is deafening, and we need to hear from them. We cannot allow our troops to be called these names. You know, this all started over the Battle of Belleau Wood, where a Marine battalion charged across an open wheat field into machine gun fire, were mowed down and took a position that cut off a salient and a counterattack the Germans had effected on our lines. That was an iconic battle. And as a Marine who has been there and saw those white gravestones, it is ingrained into my heart, like battles like Iwo Jima and Seoul and Incheon and all the others that we have in our illustrious history. To degrade those men buried there, not go there because it's a little bit rainy. Let me tell you, it was raining bullets across that wheat field when they charged those machine gun nets, and they did it. And so it gets to the point where, despite your best instincts, you feel compelled to speak out.
What's your advice to active duty folks at the Pentagon right now in particular who may not like the rhetoric they're hearing? I mean, the rhetoric he used in Bob Woodward's book, referring to his generals, language I can't use on the air here, and implying, in fact, earlier this week that they just care more about the military-industrial complex. Those are some loaded charges by the commander-in-chief at the Pentagon.
It is. And think this. He is the senior general. He is the commander-in-chief. He's saying, I do not trust my subordinate commanders. I don't think of my men and women in uniform with any degree of respect or admiration. I mean, again, I don't care about the politics and the role of president. That will be decided. I care about the role of commander-in-chief. I care about my son. I care about all those soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that will have to respond to this. I care about those Gold Star families who have buried sons and daughters, who need to know that we do care about them. They're winners. They're heroes. And it's important for our people in the Pentagon, our senior leaders, to not get engaged as much as they feel in their gut they need to. Hang in there, do what you're told, obey your oath to the Constitution, nth degree, and leave it to us retired, I guess, to do this right now.
General Anthony Zinni, it's always a pleasure to get your perspective on things. It's been a while. Sorry it's under these circumstances. I know this is not easy to feel like you have to speak out in a moment like this, but I appreciate you sharing it with us.
Thank you, Chuck.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.